You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
All right, Justin, you have said that you've found out some more about maybe some of the options that's going to happen when it comes to high school sports. You found out some more information on at least what they're looking for.
Well, I've got a small amount of information, and like we said when we discussed this very briefly last week, no one really knows because it's still June. So they're going to have to put a plan in place, but the plan is all going to be flexible. You know, the plan is going to have to be...
I'm glad you know what month it is. Some people have lost track.
I looked
June
down.
already?
I looked at my computer and the date in the corner just to make sure. It's June.
It's
Yeah.
June.
Yeah, so there was a couple things that I heard. One is, and this information came from a credible source that actually had information that was communicated from a school. Probably going to be within the next couple of weeks, and an announcement, maybe even this coming week, an announcement from OSPI. Is that what it is?
The Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Okay, so that
I know that from my other job.
Yeah, so the Office of the blah, 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 blah is going to make an announcement at some point about what the plan is for schools in the fall. Are we going to have schools in school? I've heard a lot of different things, like some people are suggesting that maybe grade school could happen in a classroom and junior high and high school would be done from home, distance learning. Most people, I think, believe that classes are going to go back to the classroom in the fall, and that's obviously what we're all hoping for.
Yes.
So once OSPI makes an announcement about what the plan is for school in the fall, the WIAA, which is the sports organization that runs high school sports in our state, is going to vote on one of these proposals for what will happen with sports. The one thing about this that kind of caught me off guard a little bit is they're kind of banking on the fact that, not banking, but they're at least acknowledging the possibility that there's going to be a spike in coronavirus cases in November, which is something that I hadn't heard. I know Andrew said that he maybe had heard it, but their plan seems to be based around the possibility that in November, I think, Andrew, would you say it was based on flu patterns?
Yeah, the assumption when you're talking about a spike in the fall is that infections will follow a similar pattern to what we see with normal flu epidemic, where every fall it's flu season. There's more cases, something to do with the cold weather, I believe. Okay.
So the information that I received said that if there is a spike in November, that's kind of what some of these plans are based on. So the WIAA has not ruled out the possibility of just proceeding with the season as normal, which would be most fall sports starting in early September. I believe football is scheduled to kick off on the 4th of September, something like that. And then just kind of seeing how things are going. And there's a possibility that based on what phases different counties are in, some counties might be able to do some sports and others might have to wait and then just catch up whenever they're allowed to. I know I saw a headline that said Grays Harbor is potentially going to be in phase 3 next week.
That's based on when we entered phase 2.
Okay.
When Grays Harbor entered phase 2, 3 weeks from then.
Got
So
it.
you have to
So
stay
could apply for the variance if they wanted to.
Yeah, you have to stay in each phase for 3 weeks.
Got it.
July 12th is the first day that you would hit that 3 week. You can apply for the variance to get into the next phase.
Okay, so there's at least some hope that everything will just be able to proceed as normal. One thing that the WIAA has considered is starting the fall sports seasons about a month early, in early August. That way they could complete the seasons before November and avoid the spike. And then if there is a surge in coronavirus cases, they could take that month off. And then hopefully, either in December or after winter break, then they could start the winter sports. But they would have fall sports done before November. That is one possibility they're considering. And another possibility they're considering is just waiting until after winter break and starting sports in January.
Interesting.
And having a schedule that runs from, I believe the 4th of January is when they'd come back from winter break, somewhere around there, and then running through close to the end of June. So you have that 6-month stretch where you play, probably, I'm assuming, although there wasn't more information about specifically what sports would do what, and I'm assuming they would decide that after the fact, you probably play a consolidated version of each sports season lasting about 2 months during that span.
That'd be very interesting.
I think it would be crazy.
That
But
would
of
be
the
exciting.
of the options that are out there, it kind of seems the most likely because it's a wait and see option. A lot could change in the next month and a half. Maybe everything will be fine. But starting early seems risky because you don't even know what stage all the different counties are going to be in. So the idea of starting in roughly 2 months in the beginning of August to avoid that spike, that's kind of a hypothetical spike that could or could not happen in November. It seems like, I'm not a scientist, it seems a little out there to think, let's start early so we could avoid this hypothetical spike.
It does seem like that wait and see option would be most likely from kind of how everything's been treated with this. It also is the scariest option when we've seen dates and plans and everything put out. It seems like the wait and sees always turn into nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be what you said. It might be the most likely option. And to me, it's the scariest option because it's like, well, we'll wait and see and we'll do it. We're going to do it all in this condensed version. And then they get to that point and they're just like, yeah, it's all canceled. It's interesting to me because it would provide sports, which would be a lot of fun and be very interesting to see how they cram everything into that short period of time and be a lot of fun to cover it.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be nonstop action for just 6 months straight. And it'd be a crazy fun time to try and follow all of it. But also looking at it from what we've seen in the past with how this has been treated, it seems like we get, okay, well, we're going to be in this for a month. Or maybe we'll bring back school now. Or maybe we'll do this now. And it just seems like every time we have those dates that we're looking forward to, they get to there and they're just like, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would be frightened of as a sports fan and a high school sports fan. I'd be like, oh, great. They're just going to get to January and be like, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, and I do think that's a legitimate concern. The other thing that came to my mind with this whole, is it possible that they might just kind of go business as usual and let other counties catch up when they can? As far as Grays Harbor County goes, we've been pretty lucky with the amount of COVID cases that we've had. So we're staring down the possibility of getting into phase 3, even as soon as within the next couple of weeks. So phase 3 allows gatherings of up to 50 people and some non-essential travel. So we're talking about the possibility that, look at the fall sports. It's golf, cross country, volleyball, soccer, and football. The only one that's going to have trouble with 50 is football.
That's true. Golf is already starting back professionally here soon.
Yeah.
Because it's the perfect sport for social distancing. Especially if you play like I do. I'm never even close to anybody. I played with my wife and she was in the fairway and I was off in the woods somewhere half the time we were playing.
Okay, when you degrade your golf skills, it makes me feel bad about myself because you're way better than me.
Oh, trust me, I'm going to be putting out a golf video here soon that on our channel, and it went from like let's film us playing golf to it's going to be more like, what am I doing? Why can't I get out of my head?
Because the video camera.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if you look at it from that perspective, at least as far as Grays Harbor goes, I mean, our teams could play against each other. It would be a question who they would play against outside of our county. Let's say there's a possibility Grays Harbor County is in phase 3 and approaching phase 4, maybe? Like, how far would we be off of phase 4? If we get to phase 3 by the end of June, is it reasonable to think by the end of August we could be on phase 4?
You would hope so.
If Grays Harbor County is ready to go, I wouldn't mind at all if the WIAA decided, hey, if your counties are ready to go, then play the games and let the other counties catch up with you when they're out of their phases. But would you prefer that, or would you prefer to see them try to cram 3 seasons worth of sports into 6 months?
It's interesting because again, there's pros and cons to either. Like there would be a disadvantage to the areas that had to play that catch up, right? I'm not sure if Tenino is still going to be in the league, but they're in Thurston County, I believe. And if they're behind us in Grace Harbor, how does that catch up look? And is it fair? Is it going to be fair to anybody?
It's probably not, but like, this is another comment that we made a couple weeks ago. Like, in a perfect world, everything will be fair, but we don't live in a perfect world right now. The world has kind of exploded.
Yeah, the world's kind of sucks right now.
Yeah, but it's
2020 is the worst.
Yeah, it's going to force coaches and players and schools to look at athletics not as something to go win a championship, but as something to actually build character. It could potentially put back into athletics what the best part of athletics are, what you get out of it. You learn how to work hard. You learn how to be a good teammate. The emphasis could be taken off of winning. The emphasis could be taken off of championships. The emphasis could be character building.
That would be a nice little reminder, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I tend to favor, in this particular instance, looking at like, if the WIAA is choosing between starting early to avoid a spike, starting with business as usual, and allowing an opportunity for certain counties to catch up to other counties, or moving all the seasons into a 6-month stretch after the holiday break, I think is it unreasonable to think that they should go into the fall as long as OSPI comes out and says, hey, school is going to be on campus in the fall? Is it reasonable to think that they should go into the fall saying, we're going to try to do this the way that we should, and if coronavirus gets worse, we'll pull the plug, and then use the January through June plan as a bailout move in case you couldn't do sports in the fall because of the coronavirus?
I like that.
If it were me, that's what I would do. But again, I'm not organizing these things, so I don't know how unreasonable it is to think that you could go into it. And as long as you pull the plug before the season starts, not only, have you not actually played anything, so you don't have to worry about how any of that carries over, but then you have 3 months to figure out all the schedules and how everything would work after winter break is over. If it were me, that would be the plan that I would most want to go with. But that's not actually any of the plans they proposed.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. And as I'm with you on that, I also don't know what all goes into it.
Yeah.
So, but that seems reasonable.
3 months.
I'm just glad they're trying hard to get it to happen.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that I'm
Right.
going to take out of this is they're trying to figure out a way to make it happen.
And I think I said last week as well that I was encouraged, as I know some other people were encouraged, by how the WIAA handled things in the spring. Like, they waited until the last possible moment before they pulled the plug on the spring sports seasons. They didn't go, coronavirus, we cancel everything. They said, let's wait and see. They waited a few weeks. They said, okay, there's still a possibility. If we can start by such and such date, we can get these things in. They left those possibilities out there. So I felt like they were thinking about it in the right way. They had the same train of thought that I would have had. So I'm cautiously optimistic that the WIAA will come up with a result that will be the best possible one.